Good evening. Uganda's ambassador to the United Arab Emirates, Nimisha Madivan, was recently recalled following reported protests by the Arab state over her conduct. Reports say Ms. Madivan troubles stem from the April invitation of Ugandan MPs to UAE, where she allegedly claimed Ugandan girls were being sold in slave markets. The MPs reportedly expressed disappointment over slavery and trafficking of Ugandans in the UAE, and later compiled a list showing scores of Ugandans had committed suicide as a result of the torment they face in the Middle Eastern countries. How grave is the situation of trafficked girls, and what can the government do to rescue these girls from the shackles of bondage? What are the likely ramifications of the diplomatic tiff between Uganda and the UAE? On the spotlight is a panel of two: the Director for Labor in the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, Mr. Martin Wander, and the Butambala County MP, the Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi. Gentlemen, thank you very much for honoring our invitation. You're most welcome, and you are on the spot tonight.
Thank you.
I should also add that we had earlier also invited the Honorable Margaret Komuhangi, woman member of Parliament for Nakasongola. She had accepted our invitation. Unfortunately, I can't see her now, but
she's on the way.
Okay, I hope she will. Honorable Kivumbi, let me begin with you, because what we know is that members of Parliament visited the UAE. Describe to us and to the viewers what you really saw.
First of all, let me start on a broader picture. At present, approximately, you have nearly 100,000 Ugandans working in UAE, doing various jobs. We interact.
100,000 is a population bigger than some municipalities in this country.
Yes, so you have 100,000 Ugandans working in UAE, and they do various jobs. Some work in taxi, they are taxi drivers, others work in security firms, others work in supermarkets, others work in events, because UAE, especially Dubai, has a lot of events that take place of global nature. Others do really high professional jobs in industries. But be as it may, you have a category of people who work as maids. These are housemaids. This is where we are getting most problems. Now, we went to the UAE, one, to justify the huge expenditure, huge request that the embassy was requiring from a budgetary perspective. And we went as a budget committee. In the supplementary, they were demanding quite a huge sums of money. So we wanted to see the justification, not only for supplementary, but going forward. They were saying they needed a lot of money, millions of dollars, to handle. So we want to say, why do you need all this money? So when we reached UAE, the very day we arrived at the embassy, we found 3 young girls who had spent a week. They spent a whole day outside the embassy, and that's where they sleep. And when you talk about Abu Dhabi, where we have our High Commission, people may not think it is a Kampala kind of environment. Just a few hours in the sun, so humid, so hot, can be terrible. Now, these girls narrated to us the ordeal they had gone through. One of them told us she went through Entebbe. But right from Entebbe, when she arrived on the day of her departure, and she had paid a lot of money to the agency that was taking her, And when she arrived in Entebbe, a certain gentleman briefed her and told her, now things are going to change. Here is a visa. She was given two visas. One, she will sew at the counter, and after the counter, she was required to tear it. And then have another visa, which she will present while she reaches Dubai. She was shown a particular immigration officer to go to direct, don't go to any other, but go to this one. So when she reached Abu Dhabi, she was taken to what is called a labor market. It's called a labor recruitment center in Fauja state. And when you go to that labor recruitment center, when you go there, you are literally in a slave market. You are bought by a client who pays up a certain amount of money, and you are that person's property. I can describe. So then, after listening to her,
is this what you're narrating? Is it what you were told by this girl? What
now,
you saw?
Now, after narrating all that story and the other things I don't want to mention on the media, after narrating all this story, we said, no, we can't live here until we've gone to see that
market. Recruitment center.
That recruitment center. And we paid ourselves, not the embassy. It was our own curiosity. We paid money. We contributed a fund and sponsored ourselves and transported ourselves to that recruitment center. So on reaching there, it's like, holdings for cattle. It's like you have quite a large span of land, like from here maybe up to Makerere. And on all sides, they are glassed houses where people sit in on both sides. And you can walk in. And then while you walk in, you can spot someone you want and say, this is the one I want. And you go to the counter, you are given a price. When you pay, you take. And you can walk into, and there are stalls. You say if you want Ugandans, if you want Ethiopians, if you want Filipinos, if you want people from Bangladesh, if you want people from Nigeria, if you want people from Kenya, if you want people from Burundi, if you want people from Sudan, in most of these African countries. And they are signposts. And they can describe if one, someone fluent in English.
It's as if they are selling the Zebu and the Boran and all this kind of stuff.
Exactly. And this was not an experience, I mean, to live in, and it's so regrettable. Actually, Honorable Margaret Mohanji, Komhanji, who was coming here, we said, okay, can you go and attempt to buy? She was given an offering for someone to buy, and was told the amount of money she required to pay. And we'll take that person. While walking in, personally, this is personal, some ladies spotted me, because I think they normally see us on cutters of NTV. I said, Honorable Chivumbi, and I had the courage to walk in. I talked to the person manning that stall, because that holding, because there was various holdings. They said, okay, you can talk to her. So I talked to a lady from Shema. I don't want to mention names. And told us, I've been here for 3 months. Some other friends of mine who I came with were taken. Me, I'm still here, waiting for someone who will be able to take me. And she was there. Then she's the one who told me, I'm not alone. In the other building, in the corner, there are quite a number of you. Here, I'm only alone here, and the second girl. But in the other building, there are quite a number. Unfortunately, I didn't go to that extra building, because I think along the way, it was time for Magharibi, evening prayer. We went for evening prayers. After evening prayer. But I also interacted with the Ugandan, whom I found at that very person who was actually dealing in that kind of trade and told us horrible stories on what is happening. But it was also sad to note that between January and August of 2016, 16 girls who had found themselves in those horrible conditions had committed suicide. This one I can mention, a one Niger, her name, had run mad and is in UAE. Literally had run mad. But there were also, so it was something we left and came back to Ghana and said, we will do everything. We owe it to humanity. We owe it to the African continent to speak true to power, whatever that power is, to say this simply cannot continue. You can't live in a civilized country, in a civilized epoch with all that we are going through, and you have this kind of trade. Okay. And besides, to own a slave in UAE is not illegal. So, yes, it's not illegal. So in their legal framework, it's not that terrible. So I've described the good side. So the ambassador had nothing to do with what we found out. It was our curiosity. And I think there's nothing we've done that if I'm given another opportunity, I would do otherwise.
Okay, let me bring in here the Labor Director for Labor at the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, Mr. Martin Wandera.
Oh, before he comes in, let me also describe another girl who told us how she was trafficked through Busia, okay, to Nairobi Airport. And from Nairobi Airport en route to Dubai. And it was, so there is a whole racket through Entebbe, through Nairobi.
Mr. Martin Wandera, we've listened to that expose that is so ugly, and I'm sure the Honorable Kivumbi, what he's telling us is what he exactly saw. Is the minister aware that something like this is happening to fellow Ugandans in the UAE in that kind of manner that has been described?
Now, let me begin by saying that there are benefits of labor migration as there are costs associated with it. And one of the negative sides of it is exploitation, especially of female migrant workers, especially domestic workers. And that's why the government has put in place measures to prevent trafficking in persons. It is out of awareness of the challenges that vulnerable workers face that these measures are in place. There is a desk at the Ministry of Internal Affairs headed by Commissioner Binoga, the anti-trafficking in persons desk. That's why it is there. We are aware. And that's why the government also put in place the externalization of labor program, a formal program that facilitates people to go abroad to work through formal channels. And the intention was to make sure that those who go out to work access productive and safe employment. Unfortunately, either out of lack of awareness, many people choose the illegal channel where they end up in the hands of traffickers. So to answer your question, we are aware because exploitation of workers is a global problem of migrant workers. But the challenge is also, it is very difficult to stop people from traveling. Your constitution and mine, Article 29(2)b says, everyone has a right to enter and leave Uganda without any let or hindrance. And despite all these stories, even those who are watching, there are those who are saying, "Nze wachirika ngende, kubanga gundi agenda nafunamu." You see, that's the dilemma that we have as people who are involved in promoting safe migration. He interacted them 1 or 2 days. I talk to them every day. Someone will return from one of the countries telling stories quite similar to what he is giving, but then they are telling you, "Sebo, bwaberawo chance njagala kola ki kuddayo."
They would want to go back.
They
even
want
if
to
there's a
go
problem.
back. Yes, they want to go back. I see many of those cases. So this, what is saying, reinforces what we have been saying, that if you want to go out, seek out for formal channels. They are licensed companies, close to 90.
But these licensed companies,
Yes,
that you call formal channels,
yes.
what capacity do they have to follow up the people whom they have taken? To say maybe they have a contact office in the UAE so that they can keep track of the person they have sent.
No,
Because
let me-
after exit at the immigration in Entebbe, what capacity do they have to keep monitoring?
Now, let me give you, for example, what we have done with Saudi Arabia. Because unlike countries like India, Bangladesh, Philippines, have been at this for the last 50 years. Ours is a ship that we are building as we sail. And from every challenge that we observe, we try to respond, to mitigate the risks. Now, when government imposed a ban in January 2016, 22nd, January 2016, a committee was put in place, an interministerial committee, and we studied the issue of labor migration. And one of the recommendations that came out, which we are implementing, is that, one, any foreign company to recruit from Uganda must be licensed in the respective jurisdiction. It must be vetted by our mission. And in Saudi, what is happening now, so far we have vetted 382 companies. And for all these companies, from my computer, I'm able to tell you where each of them is located, who the directors are. And through GPS, if I drove to Jeddah right now, I know where Sayed is and so forth. And the reason we have done that is to ensure that traceability is facilitated. Because in the past, people would go to work for a company that you can't trace, whose directors you don't know. Now that we have resolved. Therefore, if there is distress in Saudi now and someone calls, I was taken by company A from Uganda to company B in Jeddah or in Dammam, and I'm having a problem, our mission knows where that girl, the company that took her, and is therefore, it makes it easy for the ministry, for our mission to respond and provide the necessary consular services.
Okay, now.
But also, just hold on, Kamara. Now, this is not to say that those who go with through the formal channels may not face problems. But the advantage the one who goes through a formal channel has is that there is someone to hold accountable. These workers sign a 4-party contract. The employee, the employer, the Ugandan company, and the company in the recipient country. And these two companies are made jointly and severally liable for any breach of contract. But beyond that, one of the requirements for licensing of any company is a bank guarantee of 50 million shillings. And the purpose of the guarantee is to make good for any breach of the contract. If a company externalizes someone and this person is not paid, or their right to return home is being violated, we charge the guarantee. This is not possible in cases where someone has been trafficked. And that is the challenge with the kind of cases that Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi is talking about.
So have you been able to charge some companies, maybe buy air tickets for some girls to come back, or Ugandans who are stranded?
Yes, we have done that.
Okay.
Companies have done that, but also government has facilitated over 24 workers to return,
Okay,
paying tickets.
Now, I
Paying for
understand there are,
tickets.
as we speak,
Yes.
there are about 34 Ugandan girls stranded in UAE. And I understand some girls have even gone mad walking on the streets of Jeddah. You are a member of parliament, you work in the ministry. We are Ugandans. What can be done for those ones who are crying for the help of Uganda, for our help? I've seen WhatsApp messages, their voices. They can actually make you shed a tear.
Yeah, we can hammer the point home and say even right now we have a case which is undisputable, because this is from the publicity secretary over the Diaspora Association in the Arab Emirates. And one of them is my OB. I don't want to mention names. They can be followed up. They can follow them up. Now, the 33 girls you are talking about, they were taken by one Sewava, Sewava Lubowa, well known, has a track record that is really not enviable in any way. And they are stranded. As we speak now, 33 Ugandans are stranded. I was the other day discussing with one member of parliament who told me that 35 of young men and women from his constituency are stranded. Actually, the case of Oman is severe. In Oman and UAE, we don't even have the agreement he's talking about. We have just had one with Saudi Arabia. So for UAE and these others, actually Jordan is okay. The conditions are fine because those who behave like as if they are Europeans. But those other Afghanistan, people they are as far as Afghanistan. They are as far as Oman. And it's talking about traceability. So there are also things we have not sorted out that are simple. It's so alarming to know that if you want to process a temporary travel document in those kind of conditions, the Ugandan government demands you to pay for it. Somebody who is facing a deportation, they will tell you, please pay for that special travel documents. And even the UAE, Arab Emirates government, was writing a protest note to Uganda because other countries have a waiver in those kind of situations. As it speaks about, many countries have got what they call rescue accommodation facilities in those various countries, that once you find yourself in that kind of a situation and you have escaped from near captivity, because once these girls reach the homes of those gentlemen, their passports are confiscated, okay? They are on no pay, because somebody will say, you'll have to work for me for 7 years for me to recover. There are some recoverable costs to recover the money I upfronted for you to come here and they pay. 2, he's aware now that there's a conduit. These workers are meant to pay right here in Uganda. And then when they reach there, the other companies also pay these companies. And that's double charge. You are paid this way.
Isn't it so strange, Mr. Wandera, that people are actually paying a lot of money, in fact, borrowing, selling their land, and they're selling themselves into slavery of sorts? So what can the Ministry of Gender do to sensitize but also stop something like this, which is despicable?
I think fora like this is sensitization, and I hope people listen. But let me state some points of fact. We only, as a ministry, clear people for female domestic workers for only 2 countries, that with whom we have bilateral agreements. That is Jordan and Saudi Arabia. So all the females you see going to UAE for domestic work are workers that have been trafficked. Of course, when they get into harm's way, that does not take away the responsibility of government. But it's important that that is known. It is true for Oman also. We do not clear anybody. And that's where the dilemma is. Honorable Mwanga and many others have spoken about these challenges that people face. But every other day people are trying to go. So our focus is to try and see how we can conscientize people to know that, yes, it is your right to go and work, but if you do not go through the formal channels, these are the costs. These are the costs, and I'm happy that you have invited us here to do that. I take note of the 35 Ugandans that he's talking about. This is something that I'll take up with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, so that our mission in Abu Dhabi moves in to see how, first of all, to establish this and also see what sort of support. I agree with you, Honorable Mwanga, that we need to get rescue accommodation in case someone is under distress. They remain Ugandans. The fortunate thing is that as MPs, you are responsible for appropriation. So we hope that Parliament this time round will put money where their concerns are. We, as a ministry, would like to see labor attaches, for example. Other countries like the Philippines have attaches, because wherever there are workers, there will be problems. Even in our own houses, Honorable Mwanga, if our domestic workers, the housemaids, told their stories, they would be, in certain cases, not different from what is in South. They are sexually abused every day. So this is what you support us by making sure that money is appropriated for some of these things.
But first things first,
yes.
First of all, most people go on visitors' visas.
Yes.
That are very temporary.
Yes.
Those are not work visas. Those visitors' visas, for example, UAE, for United Arab Emirates, I think it's 1 month. Okay, now, if you are a government, honest to goodness, you are seeing a group of 20 girls boarding a plane on a temporary visa facility to go to a country where you are sure you don't have an agreement with.
And sometimes one-way ticket.
And sometimes one-way ticket. I mean, how on earth would you permit that?
Now,
how on earth would you permit that?
Let Mr. Wandera respond to that, because we're going to take a break.
Let me say this.
You will respond to that after the break, and also we're going to follow this. This show is going to, because you are committing to follow the case of the 35, and as you as a member of parliament, you as the Ministry of Gender, and we as journalists, we just want to follow up to the logical conclusion of the fate of the 35 Ugandan girls who are in UAE. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara, and my guests tonight are Mr. Martin Wandera from the Ministry of Gender and Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi, Member of Parliament for Butambala County. And we're talking about the fate of the Ugandan girls, especially in the United Arab Emirates. And we know that some MPs have given us records show that 48 Ugandans died in the Middle East. Among those who committed suicide, there are 34. So my question is, why has government not taken up a proper investigation on the circumstances under such, or even the ministry?
Maybe before I answer that, let me start off with where Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi ended about what we are doing to manage cases that clearly indicate that there is an element of trafficking, and he cited people traveling on a 1-month visa with no return, a visitor's visa. Now, first of all, as I said, under the Constitution, every Ugandan, big or small, has a right to enter and leave Uganda. Now, that poses a challenge for immigration officers, where someone has a valid visa, has a valid passport, has a ticket, has a tourist visa, and someone is saying, I want to go and see the Burj Khalifa. It's not only you and me who can travel to Dubai. Now, that poses a challenge. But that said, there is a robust profiling system at the airport. We have an external employment help desk, and that's what it does, to profile whoever is traveling based on their appearance, the documents they hold, and you can clearly tell that this camera cannot be a tourist. And many who cause suspicion, whom authorities fear will get into harm's way, are offloaded every other day. These are records that can be provided. But of course, within every system, there will be bad apples. Even within government institutions, some people work with these people. But to say, what I want to categorically state is that the government, we have a labor officer based at, we have at that health, the ministry is represented. So we are trying our level best to make sure that trafficking in persons is prevented. But it is something that is very, very difficult to deal with. Now, regarding the 48 people, a report was made by, I think, one of the MPs saying 48 people had committed suicide and they had been buried in the desert. True, people die, people commit suicide for many reasons, here and abroad. And we did look at that list, and were able to identify 6 of those who had traveled through companies, were able to establish even where they were buried. So that report had inadequacies, and that's why. And we even issued.
And why they could have committed suicide?
The ministry. No, some of these died of natural causes. They were death certificates. Some occupational accidents. So, which takes away credibility to some of these stories.
But for the cases, Mr. Wandera,
yes,
of those who have committed suicide,
yes,
is it because they're mad?
Now, that is for doctors to tell.
But you
But
also
are there people who commit suicide in Uganda? Now, if Ugandans commit suicide at home, they can commit suicide anywhere. There are Ugandans committing suicide even in America, even in the UK. So,
this is
the point that I want to make, just hold on, Mr. Kamara, that particular story of the 48,
that because they are tormented, sir.
That one also can happen. But the story that 48, all the 48, and you know, they say they had all committed suicide in a space of 48, about 6 months, which was not correct. Those 48 were over a period of 5 years. I know there are people under distress and forced, who get forced to even commit suicide. But what I want to say is that, you see, the truth should be told. When we looked at those, none of them, 6 of them we identified had not been buried in the desert. The cause of death was known. And we even issued, the ministry issued a statement in the papers. So, but even this 35, as I have said, Tomorrow we'll make sure we take it up with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, get our mission in Abu Dhabi to intervene.
Your mission is in disarray. You have
No. Recalled for consultations. And is no more in diplomatic service.
But you see, that's why you've missed Honorable Margaret Mahang, because she has been a chair of that committee for quite some time, and with vast knowledge of what is happening. But the truth be told, first of all, it's the responsibility of every government,
True.
good and bad, to protect
Its people.
and defend its own people, no matter the circumstances, and to account for every single death. Establish the cause and account, no matter whether I'm on my private errands or not. Now we have 16 that committed suicide in a space of 7 months. Last year. 7 months. When we asked for the latest figures, the officials were very quite hesitant to reveal who had committed suicide since then. Now, there was a committee report that talked of 48 that had committed suicide. First of all, you are confirming that 48 died. You are only saying only 6 could have died of natural established causes. You don't even have the capacity to know what caused the deaths of others. And you state and you government with not only but a moral obligation. Not only a moral, you have an obligation, and somebody is on oath to do that. On oath to do that. That's the first oath the head of state takes before you pledge to promote our social welfare. The first one is to defend people and their property. Now, that is a huge failure. And you are saying this has been going on for 5 years. For 5 years, and you have been saying for 5 years, under which law? A government that has, we are not discussing the factors that are driving this.
That's what we're getting into.
Okay? But a government that has taken a strategic and decision that we are going to externalize labor should put in a robust legal regime to ensure that
people don't die.
No, to ensure that is impeccable. Okay? To ensure that all the elements you are talking about, traceability, to ensure that all those other things are really done with and we can deliver.
But Honorable Mwanga Kivube, we have seen Parliament, sometimes get a committee, or, to probe graft and other problems, vices in society. Why can't you, as Parliament, establish a committee to probe this crisis? And maybe also have like another commission of inquiry or something. At least we know. We trace.
Where do you probe something that you already know? We already know that people are dying. We have already told you that they found themselves in a labor market. They have already told you how they go there.
The ministry can account for out of 48. Out of 48, the ministry can account for 6.
For 6.
So what about the 42?
So what are you saying? Why do you set up a probe? The thing is, government must be held accountable. In uncertain terms, government must come up with a legal framework, a regulatory framework that is impeccable. And excuses cannot be permitted. We are not at it only alone in the region. When Kenya faced a similar problem like this one, they banned all externalization of labor until they instituted a robust legal regime. I said, now going forward, this is what is going to be done. But let the truth be told, that the people involved in this trade are extremely very powerful. They're not you and me, the ordinary wananchi. They are the real stakeholders of power in this country. Okay. And that makes it very, very difficult for control mechanisms.
Okay,
to put
Mr.
in
Wandera,
place.
are you, as a ministry, facing a cabal of the rich and powerful who are involved in the exploitation of labor, and they can do it in the way they can because somehow they are untouchable?
There is no untouchable person. And as far as that our ministry is concerned, we treat all companies equally and all play in accordance with the rule. And the law does not say that big or small people cannot take part in business as long as they are playing in accordance with the law. Because I ask anyone to say that company A, B, C, D is playing outside the rule under the watch of the ministry, I would challenge anyone.
So in your
Nobody,
view,
you see, yes. And again,
where is the
also,
weak- where is the
you
weak link?
you cannot place any of these workers who are under distress to the companies of the so-called big people, or even the licensed companies. Because all the people they met are people who have been trafficked.
So if you are to
And
apportion blame in this
fighting
quest, Mr. Wandera,
fighting traffic in Camara is a duty of the government and the citizenry. We have put out statements in the media, print and electronic. I'm here doing the same thing, telling people that there are risks involved in going to work abroad. However, if you want to minimize those risks, go through the formal channels. So, yes, there are Ugandans for whom government is responsible, but we must begin speaking the truth to our people. You know something is risky, but you know you make yourself extremely desperate to pursue a channel that will lead you in harm's way. So you cannot place every blame on government or the ministry in particular. We have done our part, opened up a formal channel for externalization.
okay, I think now we have looked at the problem in the UAE.
Yes.
But sometimes people are running out of this country because they also feel they are desperate here. They also feel this, in some cases conditions are deplorable, and they just find, you know what, like, they go anywhere because even their own village or even here in Kampala, the situation is bad and the situation is dire. As a Minister of Gender, sometimes there are programs that come. Have you looked at the push factors and what you can do to stop?
Now, let me start first of all by saying that, yes, the labor market outcomes of our growth have not been very positive. Underemployment is real. Wages are relatively low. And in a situation where there are wage differentials across economies, people will be tempted to go. For example, a housemaid earns between 900 to 1 million shillings. So if someone has been earning 50 or 100,000 in Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, 1 million shillings in Saudi Arabia really looks very attractive. And someone would do everything to get their 10-month salary in Uganda in 1 month. But migration is as old as the history of mankind. Many Ugandans they began going to the Middle East even in the 70s. Many have gone to America, many have gone to Europe, even within Uganda. Now, there are people in our municipal context in Butambala who are selling their land to come and do boda in Uganda, in Kampala. But there are those who are also saying that opportunities are in Butambala, selling their boda to go and sell Kangende Nime. Now, there are those who are leaving the Middle East saying there is nothing here. But there are also those who are saying that is the place to go to. But what is being done? As a ministry that is responsible for employment, one of our functions is to advise government on employment creation. But our advice should be evidence-based. We carried out a 14-month economy-wide, multi-sectoral employment diagnostic analysis study. The first in Uganda, only the third in the whole of Africa. And what were we trying to answer is, why is it that we've had sustained economic growth without very favorable employment outcomes? Because in the 90s and late 80s, IMF and World Bank told us, you know, if you liberalize, you privatize, you deregulate, and you have sustained economic growth, employment will be created because labor is a factor of production. Yes, jobs have been created, but there is still a mismatch between supply and demand. So we looked at a number of issues beyond the analysis that has always been done. It has been narrow in the sense that whenever you talk about the problem of unemployment, people look at the labor market and just focus on the question of skills. They will say, oh, people are not employed because they are not skilled. But if you look, for example, at the PIGS countries in Europe, Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain, they have unemployment rates that are much higher than Uganda, but their people are more skilled than ours. So so we had to look at the whole economy, because what happens in the labor market is determined by what happens in the other three markets: the money market, the goods market, and the bonds market. So we did analyze that. Look at the macroeconomic policy, look at the trade and investment policy, we've looked at the labor market institutions, the education and training, social protection systems. All these interact to affect the creation of employment. Now, we finalized that study, had it validated, and what we are doing now is to develop a strategy for employment creation. And we were very encouraged with the President's statement on Labor Day, because it spoke to what we were thinking. For example, the issue around policy, issues of import substitution, issues of removing the binding constraints around enterprise development, because the only way you can create employment is by encouraging the growth of enterprises. So in this study we have identified a number of things that we are still trying to analyze, and soon we will be able to sit within government and make proposals, which, if adopted, we think they will go a long way in addressing the problems of employment in the country. So therefore, I would like to assure our listeners and you here that yes, everyone is concerned, and there is a lot of discussion going on within government, within the leadership of the country, and we are confident that something will happen. Okay. For example, the issue of electricity now is being addressed, the issue of roads, because to industrialize, you need some of that basic infrastructure.
But Mr. Wandera, the roads, yes, we have them. We have a road from Busia to Bundubujo, Tamaka. You have a road from Vura in the north to Virunga in the south. But what are we transporting on those roads?
Yes, now
what
that is
taking place?
Yes, but you see now, you imagine if you begin producing and you are not able to transport. So that is, from this study, there are a number of other things that I'm not qualified right now to talk about, that we are going to propose after we have had very detailed discussions
we're going to take a break, yes. And when we come back, we'll look into those push factors why Ugandans are leaving this country to go and take up those jobs desperately, and also open the line so that the people who are watching this program can contribute, ask questions, and tell us what they know. Perhaps if you have had an issue, even if you have succeeded in Dubai or wherever, you can tell us your story. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara, and my guests tonight are Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi, Member of Parliament for Butambala County, and Mr. Martin Wandera, who's Director for Labor in the Ministry of Gender. And we are discussing the exploitation of labor and the challenges that are therein. There are those who believe that as long as the country is divided into a section of the few elite and their cronies possessing the wealth and opportunities, and the majority as the underprivileged, youth will continue to be trafficked. When shall we ever fight for the underclass, Honorable Mwanga?
The fight is on. That's what we are doing right now. And I can tell you it is a costly fight for all intent and purposes. And as you asked for the push factors, you don't go very far. First of all, you have a huge governance crisis in this country. You have adopted a structure of governance that is not commensurate with the challenges we face in the economy and which you cannot sustain. For instance, Honorable Mandela Mati is a former member of Parliament. How do you justify that in the next few years, actually by end of this term, you'll have a 500 House of Representatives? Will be close to 500 because you are creating so many municipal councils, so many units of administration, so many electoral areas that you literally don't need. Qualitatively, you are not improving. Two, I can tell you, I'm just going for low-hanging fruits before I go to the core ones. When you look at, for instance, if I were to go into our national budget and pull out travel abroad, just travel abroad, you would save a huge amount of money by just going for travel abroad.
You make the allocations. It's your job.
No. I can't tell you. You
don't allocate.
You have a political structure that cannot allow you allocate the way you want, because you have an inherently inbuilt insulation of that kind of behavior, and you cannot hardly change it. So you could go. When you go to utilities, and for example, you say, how many vehicles do agencies buy? Literally every day. When you go to any MD's government ministry, you'll think it's a garage. You go anywhere, go to any ministry, what will greet you are so many vehicles that are parked, that are rendered completely useless. This is complete wastage. When you go, I'm told sometimes those vehicles are actually useful. They make them appear like they are wrecks, and in the end, they buy them. Yes, at the end of the day, it will inform a budget because you'll have to replace, and that's wastage. I'm just going for low-hanging fruits before I go for complicated issues that our people may not appreciate quickly. Now, if you go to the way you structure your expenditure in the budget, they will tell you what are the pushers of our economy: tourism, agriculture, okay? You know those sectors that can lead to mass employment. How much money do you push into them?
Agriculture is 3.9% of the total budget.
Tourism is 0.26.
Actually, agriculture comes as number 10 on the on the priorities. Yeah. And actually, the second biggest item on the budget is debt service.
Is debt service. Now, and when you go to debt service, which is really, I can tell you, you are going to collect in this year's annual budget, which you are going to read. We have the figures. You are going to collect 16 trillion in our local revenue. Our recurrent expenditure is going to be 11 trillion. Recurrent expenditure. That leaves you with only 3 trillion for development. What does it mean? That for any other extra development you'll do, you'll have to borrow. Either internally or through donor, what they call donor.
Yeah, but the problem
support.
is that you can borrow the money, but there's no effective utilization of that money.
No, before you go to even utilization of your money, you borrow money that you literally don't have what they call counterpart funding. So you've borrowed a loan, you begin to amortize it, you begin to pay interest, but at the end of the day, you are not utilizing it because government, locally, you cannot generate enough revenue to provide counterpart funding because you have a huge recurrent expenditure. That's one issue. Then you go to the issue, what is the unity cost? At what cost? When you go to the development budget, the next challenge, what's the unity cost on which you do your infrastructure? You are building the express highway, which is about to be opened, at 38 billion per kilometer, which is the most expensive road south of the Saharan Desert. You are going this is it Northern Bypass, at 32 billion per kilometer. And it is a third quality road that will not last number of years too. Where are you getting your material? Where are you buying your equipment? And all of these are imported. There's no local content.
But Honorable,
local content.
You cannot build a kilometer for 32 billion.
I'm telling you, that's what is happening.
No, 32 billion a kilometer.
That's what is happening. You are going to build the so-called oil roads, which are now, they are talking about, we are building oil roads.
Okay.
The cost of building oil roads.
My producer is telling me there are quite a number of people who want to participate
yes, I can
in this
even
discussion.
tell you locally, they've borrowed out of the economy, 13 trillion through internal borrowing. This is money that should have been available.
Before I
can even give you another
but you see, you members of parliament,
government has 2.7 areas to people who have provided services.
0.7 trillion.
0.7 trillion, and is only providing 300 billion. And these are people who have mortgaged their properties, and their running businesses are collapsing, and you don't pay. And at the end of the day, say there are no jobs. Save the need for skill and the change of curriculum. Those are sophisticated ones.
Okay.
So,
let
me
open the lines.
Have a failing economic order.
Let me open the lines. The numbers on the screen. We have Honorable Manga Kivumbi and Mr. Martin Wandel. I have a call online. Hello.
Yes, MTV Uganda.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Darius calling from Dubai.
You are in Dubai?
Yes, sir.
Oh, go right ahead, sir.
So I would like to tell Mr. Mwanga Chivumbi that when you are coming here for visit visa, it's either one payment according to what you choose. And then also I would like to advise our sisters, because in most cases they are the ones complaining about suffering and what. UAE has opened Tadiba centers where all ladies can go and register if you want to work as a housemaid. So these Tadiba centers, they can help you, like they make a data bank for you, they accommodate you. After accommodating you, they get for replacements. In case you get any problem, Tadiba Center can get on your rescue. And also that guy from the Ministry of Labor, what they should do. Because you have seen like many embassies like for Philippines, these Filipinos, in case they get problems, they are just helped. What they need to do, they should agitate for better terms between our government and this government. So that in case of any problem, every person can be knowing that. And also they need to put a data bank. Because guys, we are here, I don't know if the ministry has our information. If our sisters have the information. In case of any problem, a person can just put his or her problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting that our first caller was calling direct from Dubai. Let me take another call online so that I'm sure you have taken note of that information. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Ndeje.
Ndeje, what's your name, sir?
I'm called Hassan also.
Hassan, you're on air.
Now, I'm asking Mr. Chivumbi and the rest.
Yes.
You hear me?
We are hearing you loud and clear.
Mr. Kamara.
Yes.
I've tried to move around SADC countries like in Tanzania. The government is working. What are those MPs doing to see that we build infrastructure in the city? Look at our road from the park, from Central with Queen's Way.
Okay.
The road. Just see how it looks like really. They're talking about infrastructure, the roads and the rest. where do we see Uganda in the next 5 years? Why always politics? Why always? Now we are going to see commission of inquiries. That's the talk of the day in Parliament. We are tired of mambo ya kisiasa. Tuachane kama, yani tuendelee na mambo ya kiuchumi. We need to see really Kampala clean. We need to see buses, good buses. Yani mambo ya siasa yani nimechanganyikiwa.
We want to
why can't we really see something visible? Look at the state of our roads in the city. We are mambo ya kisiasa. Any element with a slogan. We have done this. Look at the state of education really. We used not to have, I started barefooted in the village. But we managed to challenge. Imagine Karanga. Now you're talking about schools. Me, I started barefooted from primary 1 up to 10. I only put my shoes when it was a speaking day. And it was a bold issue. But we challenged. We challenged those who are urban-based. Look at the state of our nation really. We talk about, I've seen the news with Madame Moloni saying we are going to do electricity in the villages. They searched the houses.
Okay. Thank you very much. Our caller from Ndeje, very passionate about the issues, and I think this is a guy who has some positive anger about what he has said. Okay, let me take another caller line. Your point is made and taken. Let me take another caller line. Hello. I have a caller line. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm called Sami and I'm calling from Kapchorwa, Uganda.
From Sami in Kapchorwa?
Yes, please.
You're on air, sir.
Yeah, no. Hello?
Sami from Kapchorwa, you're on air. Okay, I think...
yes, please.
Continue, please. Tell us very quickly what you have to say, and then we pick another
I'm
caller.
deeply concerned about the state of our sisters and brothers. No, exactly. Whether the Ministry of Gender can put into consideration really the value for Ugandans. You know, when people are moving out of the country, I believe that they move with a purpose.
I think, my brother, you are listening to the echo to yourself, and so we can't have... All right. Unfortunately, we could not continue with that discussion. Maybe to pick the very last. And I'm told many of you would want to participate, but it will be just a question of time if I don't take your call.
Hello?
Yes. Good evening. What's your name?
Hello?
Yes, you're on air. What's your name?
Yeah. Amos Karara, Bushenyi, Western Uganda.
You are calling from Bushenyi. You're on air, sir.
Yeah, actually, I have not been following your talk, but it is a very good, very good talk. And I think it raises two issues.
Yes.
Issue of economic planning and then issues of development. I think the challenge which we have in the country is that those in charge, the policy makers, have focused on economic. We have completely failed on development planning because we have got a very small population, 40 million people. We cannot establish those who are between the 0 years to 14 years. We cannot establish those who are in the working age, establish those who are adults. Even when we go to issues of subsidizing those who are elderly, you hear given money and funding to support elders. My district, like Bushenyi, is not given. And they say Bushenyi is a better roof. When most of our elders who are bound need such kind of support. So I think now what we need is critically sit on the drawing board and go back to planning. Planning is very critical. Most of the universities are actually producing reports at even PhD level. But surprisingly, those who are in charge, policy makers, are not utilizing. So it's a very big shame. For example, for Uganda council start exporting the labor abroad. When we can not even employ people like the Kaharas who have trained in India, we are work-based planners in urban planning areas, economists.
Okay, well, our caller there from Bushenyi, thank you very much for telling us the issues, the way how you look at them. I know, well, let me take the last caller online. Hello? Hello. Good evening, ma'am.
Yes, good evening.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Juliet. I'm calling from Barara.
Juliet in Barara, you're on air.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for the talk show.
We are humbled too. Thank you for calling in.
But I was asking, before you go to the diaspora, do you know that Asians in our own country are mistreating people? Have you considered that? So if our own people can be mistreated in our own country, then how about in the diaspora where we cannot start, where we have not got enough information? I'm so thankful for Mr. Chivombi, Honorable Chivombi. Because really, the way he talks is like he's so much concerned about our people. The gentleman from the Labour Ministry has not really given us enough information. We are not satisfied. These are our sisters, our daughters who are suffering from the diaspora. And the government has not done anything to control the situation. So many girls are coming up and they are confessing on how they are mistreated, on how they kill themselves, on how they commit suicide and so many things. And the government has not come up to act. You have come up with 32 figures of the girls who are so stuck. Who knows they are already dead? And the government really is not acting so much so quickly. It could be true there are some people who are untouchables that are in controlling the whole thing. Sincerely, these are the lives of our girls, the lives of our children, the lives of our daughters who are suffering and mistreated.
Thank you.
And nobody is concerned.
Thank you very much. This show on the spot is concerned about the lives of the Ugandan. That's why we are talking about these issues and giving you an opportunity to give you a platform to speak out and bring members of parliament and the Minister of Gender. And we'll continue to follow these issues. Mr. Wandera,
yes.
How do you respond to?
First, I used to be sometimes a very naughty student. And for the last caller during my secondary school days, because she said that people have confessed that they have committed suicide. Now, if someone has died, I would have asked her how.
No, but really, you're saying their colleagues.
That is on a light note. But you see, everyone is concerned. I'm here this evening because as a Ugandan and as a public officer, I am concerned. And every other day at the ministry, we wake up to think and do things that promote the safety of our workers within the country and abroad. I've told you we have signed 2 MOUs with Jordan and Saudi Arabia, that's the government. We have proposed MOUs with Bahrain, with Qatar and other countries. UAE, we are in the final stages of beginning, we have exchanged MOUs between the two governments, and soon we'll have face-to-face discussions, and all that is being done because we would like to promote the safety of our people. There are also a number of programs by government targeting young people, like the YLP program, which has reached over 175,000 youth. Youth who banks consider not to be bankable have been given money without security. And to the surprise of those who know, the young people have proved that if facilitated, they can work. To date, about 67% of money that is due for repayment has been paid back. There is also a program for women, the Uganda Women Entrepreneurship Program. So there are many things that are being done. And it is a phenomenon of what the Baganda call gacha alimabaga. So much done, so much to do. We agree there are still a number of pain areas, but we are working as the public officers under the political leadership to see that some of these issues are resolved.
Okay. What's going to be your parting shot?
My parting shot is to all those who are interested to go abroad and for work. Please make sure you go through a licensed recruitment company. Because if you face challenges, there are opportunities for redress. And then how do you tell that you are being trafficked? If your visa is a visitor's visa, is a tourist visa. If you are being told, Twitter Malaba, Twitter Busia, that should raise an antenna that you are being trafficked. And when you go to some of these, no one will ever trace you. So that's my appeal to anyone who would like to go and work. And I also want to assure our listeners that as the ministry that's responsible for external employment, we are doing many things to make sure that we improve monitoring of these workers. For example, on the 23rd of April, we launched the online employment, the EMI system, External Employment Information Management System. And all the clearance of these workers will be done online. And the moment someone is cleared for approval, immigration at Entebbe should be able to get information. Our mission in the recipient country should be able to get information. We are doing a dry run today, and we hope that maybe by the end of July, this should be up and running. So all these show that there are many things that we are doing in view of the challenges that we are facing.
Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi, your concluding remark on the show.
Two things. I don't know whether I ought to be asking. You have 94 companies whom you have approved.
Yes.
We would be asking you too much if you advertised them and their directors. So that in my home, I know the company I'm going to go to, the director is Kamara.
But this is information we have made and even given to Parliament.
We are saying simple.
Yes.
You have 94 companies you have approved, and you have all the information, and they are legally registered. We would be asking too much if you are saying now that this has become contentious. Can we know who the directors of all these companies are, so that once I'm in trouble, I don't only contact the company, but I also know that it is owned, because that enhances the credibility of the company. Can you do that? The 94, put the directorship of all those companies one by one in the press.
That so is that information in public domain.
No.
It can be put. There is nothing. There is nothing to hide.
That is one. Two.
Yes.
Can we tackle criminality? Because human trafficking in human persons is criminal under the law. Can we have a robust system that can tackle that too? Countries where we do not have ongoing bilateral agreement, can we devise a strong policy that discourages people to go to those countries? Because, I mean, sometimes to run a state, you take the harder choices. Because if you don't, then you fast track those MOU. Otherwise, 3, can we waiver all these obnoxious charges? For example, you are rescuing somebody and ensuring that he's deported back to the country, but you are demanding a fee for a travel document. That's absurd for somebody, and it's $100. Yes. That is quite some good money.
Somebody wants to be rescued and you want them to pay.
And you are saying you pay. So that kind of 2. Can we ensure, because you do the budget, you do the ceiling, much as Parliament appropriates, but the proposals are proposed by the agencies. For us to just literally approve and interrogate them and do reallocation. Can you ensure that countries where we require rescue accommodation, there is rescue accommodation? Where you have, for example, that critical decisions like Oman is under Saudi Arabia, as an embassy. But Oman is far, far away from Saudi Arabia. It would have been more prudent if Oman was under United Arab Emirates, because the distance is manageable and you can go there. But for you to monitor Oman from Jeddah or from Riyadh is quite difficult. So these are small policies. The other one are broader questions of a broader struggle, is that there is a correlation between the girls who found on the market and the quality of leadership in the respective countries. Okay?
Okay.
So there is a correlation between those you find in externalization of labor today and the kind of leadership is almost the same. They've had longer leader. By the way, on average, those countries that have externalized labor have a leadership that average age is 78. All those countries, when you go there, they don't have a young leadership. So first of all, you have fellows that have been in leadership of these countries and have literally failed to transform them, but they're clinging on to power. So we've got to do two. I was talking to someone who said, I know, if we had had term limits, some of the drastic changes and mistakes we've gone on and gone on and gone on would have been rectified by somebody who had come in. But you have had it so long and the mistakes have persisted. Literally, there is comfort in those mistakes. And they even paraded as successes.
I hear you, Honorable Mwanga Kivumbi. Thank you very much. Mr. Martin Wandera, thank you very much. And all of you who have been watching this broadcast. And this issue, the gentlemen here have said they are going to follow. The cases of those girls who are stuck in UAE, they are going to follow it up. And we will also follow it up here.
But also make an appeal to some of these foreign governments. For us to make these cases, we are not victimizing them. We are not saying they're terrible countries, because they can pounce on innocent Ugandans that are seeking a living. I say, oh, those are terrible. They are politicians making noise, so then let them lock out. No, we are not being inhuman in any way. We are simply saying, in a modern civilization, in a modern country, slavery, those kind of treatment don't have a place.
Okay, thank you very much. But we also know that the Ugandans who are working in Saudi Arabia, in Jeddah, in United Arab Emirates, in Oman, in Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, and they're okay. They're making money, they're helping their families, and they're adding value to their lives. And there are those who are not okay. So it's not that everybody is in chaos, everybody is suffering. There are those who are suffering, and there are those who have made money. So the government of Uganda, probably the managers of our country are listening, and something must be done. Thank you very much for having been a part of this. We appreciate your insights on the matter. Good night, and God bless Uganda.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.